At the beginning of the day, the internet all began about people trying to connect to data. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but that's what the internet's all about, people connecting to data. And that translates into things like laptops connecting into what we have now as a cloud, if you will, or the internet, connecting into people's data centers, connecting into all the components in the data center, and finally connecting into data. Whether that data is here or whether the data is in AWS doesn't really make so much of a difference, but the fact is people on the other side of this laptop are connecting to data and everything in between. The tools, the security, the audit, the monitoring, et cetera, that goes on in between all that is what, of course, the partners, you guys are all about. It's what the things you offer, the services and the expertise that you offer, and of course, the technology that we offer. We fit into the world, when we think about an endpoint. I'm going to use just the letters EP, endpoint, connecting into a cloud. And the cloud is a big piece for us, as it is a big piece for everything else. When I say cloud here, I don't mean AWS or Amazon or what have you. I'm talking about the internet here. From here, all this traffic goes into your customer's environment, the edge of their network, not the edge of the world, if you will, but the edge of their own data center, the things they control. Inside here, they have things like firewalls, whether they're next generation or not. They have things like IPS and IDS. They have things like email security. They have things like FTP servers and NTP servers and domain controllers and all the other sort of fun things that they have inside there. However, what this endpoint is almost always trying to access is something sitting right inside of here called the web server. Important piece of technology, also known as an application. The web server connects to the back end through either APIs or directly to databases. What's in databases? Again, back to the story, data. When we think about Imperva, and we think about what Imperva's mission really is, when we define who we are, the way that we define who we are is by simply saying we secure data and application wherever they reside. So data and applications are our target, it's our focus. It's important for organizations to realize that when we talk about applications, yes, it's this and it's this. But there's a number of things that happen between the user, the applications, and the data where technology that comes to play is important to be able to secure those assets. So for Imperva, when we think about us, number one, we do application security and data security, bringing it all together. But the tools that we have make applications available so they don't go down, things like anti-DDoS. We have things that secure the applications like anti-bot. We have, as you noted over here, API security. And if you'll notice, I'm putting all this under the cloud because all this does exist at what we call the edge of the network, if you will, where the user starts to meet and interact with your services. API security happens right here. And of course, your general web application firewall begins right here. Many of our customers operate as a first touch point with the customer's end user right here at the edge with what we call Imperva Cloud WAF, which includes all these things. A lot of people don't recognize that it has the world-class, top-leading, industry-leading DDoS. We have the industry-leading web application firewall out here, but we do. What a lot of people are familiar with is our internal piece. I'm going to get rid of some of these tools that are inside here since they're not part of the top point here. What is important is an on-prem web application firewall. So we have Imperva's WAF, or on-prem WAF. This is what you might have known in the past for those of you who've been selling for a long time as SecureSphere. But on-prem WAF sits right here, sits between, again, the user and the web server. Yes, we still have a web application firewall sitting right over here, but oftentimes customers want more dedicated, more granular, more custom policy support, and that's what we provide right here at the on-prem web application firewall. This gives them that trust level, if you will, that they're in control of everything. They have to control this, and this is an appliance or virtual appliance that a customer would deploy in their environment. Now, what we did acquire late last year, which was 2018, was what's called RASP. Now, RASP actually sits on the application itself. And so if we think about RASP, RASP is actually a library that you install into the application. Doesn't require you to modify the application in any way. You don't change the application, but it can see in the application. And it's the first touch point at Imperva where our technology can kind of split the conversation between application on one side and data on the other. Because at the application level is where HTTP starts to speak SQL on the back end. SQL is the database language. HTTP or HTTPS is the web application communication protocol. But RASP is the first place that gives us access to see both sides of that equation. From an application security perspective, RASP does all those things you would expect a WAF to do, but it does it simply on the host itself and gives you what's called secure by default configuration, meaning it already secures your environment as soon as you deploy the RASP agent on the environment. But just be aware, Imperva provides a cloud-based web application security solution that includes DDoS, anti-bot, and the other items we briefly talked about earlier. Includes the web application firewall on-prem that is an appliance or VMware-based application firewall. It also includes the RASP agent, if you will, that deploys on the web application server itself. From a flexible options perspective, our customers have the most options available to them on how they're going to secure their applications in their environment. So when we think about the database side of this, the back-end side, again, this whole conversation, the whole customer problem is about securing the user access to the data. What they want is they want that to be done securely. They want to be able to monitor it. They want to meet regulatory compliance. And that's where the data world starts to begin. So if I start to get rid of a little bit of the stuff here to give me a little bit more room, think about the data world. Start to talk about how do I track and monitor all access to databases. Databases are typically monitored via native logging. That's something that Oracle, MS SQL, Sybase, they all provide. However, we deploy a small little agent on the application itself. And that agent talks to a device, much like the web application on-prem device that we talked about earlier. It talks to one of our devices in the network, either appliance or VM again, and allows us to monitor all user behavior going to the database and all user behavior returning from the database. It means that we can see everything and we can monitor everything. What that means is we can answer questions for GDPR, questions for PCI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It also means that we can start to do analytics on data with a technology we have called DRA. DRA gives us visibility into who's accessing the data, when they're accessing the data, how they're accessing the data. At the end of the day, those are the same questions that are going to be asked before a breach for regulatory compliance, after a breach for incident response, and during normal everyday operations to simply be able to understand whether or not a user should or shouldn't be touching your data. The fact is without this visibility, you simply have zero visibility into it. And the key here on the back end is, since most of you guys, the partners, are security VARs, security system integrators, a lot of your background and a lot of your engineers might not be database experts, might not be DBAs. We've designed our technology to be simple and security focused so that you don't have to be a database expert to be able to manage it. So when you think about Imperva, Imperva is all of this activity all the way around that includes app and data security and combines them together. And in the future, we're going to talk about technology that allows us to combine these technologies together called Imperva One, but we'll save that for another day. Thank you.